where you have two buildings of ministries. I don't remember the names of both ministries. I think this one was Ministry of Planning and this one Ministry of Health. But the cute aspect is these two goats and this strip here that holds all sorts of animals, from little chicken to an additional number of goats. So you see the fact that there is no, in this case, there is no zoning. It just goes everywhere and anywhere. Agricultural. It is Washington, D.C., my neck of the woods, where people think that everything is formal. But when you break the bad news here, it is not the case. An abandoned piece of property for that same reason. What I wanted to explain is that property, that sequence of property, right? So I wanted to show that going from the informal to the semi-formal, although it's a longer road, it's an easier lap. It's easier to get there. What is really difficult is going from here to here, from the semi-informal to the actual pure formal property, from the semi-unreal to the actual real, where here you have no risk of transacting, a full predictability, and here you don't know. In the US you will put title insurance and all sorts of insurance companies will make a lot of money in this area. Now, I'd like you to think, why is it difficult to move from here to here? Too many vested interests. Too many people and too many special professional interests that already exist. The market is moving already a little bit. It's moving inefficiently, it's moving ineffectively, but it's moving. And there are so many other professional entities that are involved, and they feel that any kind of change for them, it means that they are gone out of the game. And therefore, you see, I told you that we studied why some people engage, and they engage into having an efficient market, and they engage into having a non-efficient market. So here you have a combination of both. And that's where you need to have a very important strategy, very serious, the rigor and the strategy of how to do the transformation. Stick with it and not move at all. And that's the only moment you can actually do that last bit. Now, the impacts of a broken property rights system are threefold. So you have economic impacts, you have social impacts, and you have environmental impacts. So the economic distortions you get are all outcomes of one specific main distortion, which is the fact that the asset is, the underlying asset is so fragile that you can't really deal with it in a regular manner. So you can have appropriate valuation of the asset. You cannot have a market that is rather secure. Instead, you have high spreads, high risk spreads. The ability, you have speculation in the price. So the prices can go up, skyrocket, and they go down all the way to the bottom. You can have illiquidity of savings. What do I mean by that? All these little the apartment building in Greece with a little pole right there, do you think this is going to be a mortgageable asset? I wouldn't think so. Will any bank want to use that piece of property? Not as a real mortgage, right? Not so. And therefore, but this has a lot of money. The cost of the investment that has been put in there, it's rather big. And it's really dead and locked and liquid and all of the above. So that's one of the effects as well. And of course, weak capital markets, and of course, limited investment in infrastructure and telecommunications and utilities and energy and all that. And much, much more. Chapter 3 explains it really thoroughly. Okay, so the other two impacts are those of social distortions and environmental distortions. So when I was working and still working in trying to develop strategies for developing countries. We all talk, the mantra is sustainable economic development. But if you assume that distressed markets are a function of income disparity and not of wealth disparity, what I said originally in the very beginning, you don't really touch rules, you don't touch the way rights are issued, you don't touch the major institutional backbone of an economy. So what you really are doing is you either provide handouts, or you provide little programs, small little grants or community programs if you like. None of these things allow for the community to grow and graduate. As a matter of fact, what we're really working in a sustainable poverty. I know it's very sad to hear, but it is very true too. The number of times I have seen big organizations, and I'm not going to name them because we can discuss them elsewhere on another moment, but the amount of interventions, macroeconomic interventions, and structural adjustment loans that we have done per country in Latin America averaged to 7.5 per country in the last 150 years. And it doesn't make much sense. I mean, how many interventions like the ones we had after the crisis here in America we could handle? One, and it's already too much, right? So why don't we really concentrate in actually fixing the rules of the game and establishing a property rights system that will provide these rules? So we notice in most of these places violence, criminality, corruption. As a matter of fact, in Peru where I worked, I was impressed. We found out that the moment we established a transformation, child labor was reduced by 30%. So we have a lot of these very positive social impacts the moment you have a transformation. Middle class is very, very thin because you have this separation of those who have and those who don't have. And what I mean by those who have is those who have the security, right? And those who don't have the security. It's not every one of these people are owners, as you ask me. They're sitting, they know that they're owners, but they don't have the security. So as a result, they participate in that grouping that is called those who don't have, right? And now if we go, and of course women have a better participation in the wealth pool, minorities have a better participation in the wealth pool, and funnily enough, they also have a better participation in democracy making and in their community, in the political voice of the community. In the environmental distortions, it's extraordinary to see the reduction of carbon footprint the moment you have the transformation. People don't burn, simply, I'll give you just that. People don't burn their garbage in the middle of their open space in their community. Just that. All right, in Greece, we have, I think last year, the highest level of consumption of electricity per person because of the extraordinary amount of growth of building everywhere and anywhere, burning green spaces and de facto turning them into urban construction areas. And each one of them producing at least 10 units for families to live in. And each of these 10 units have at least 3 or 4 air conditioning units. It used to be a very beautiful weather in my beautiful hometown, Athens. Now it's very humid. We have tropical storms. It's incredible. All right, so the solution would be, of course, you would tell me, but here you are, you have the solution. So what is the solution? To transform, right? Transform. Right? We're talking about transformation. We created a whole big little video about transformation. But what is really the litmus test? We have talked a lot about transformation right now, that it is important to do it. But I'm sure you must have heard, and you asked me about De Soto, you must have heard and must have studied about titling programs, about all sorts of other types of programs that are going to countries to help, to try to provide some sort of help in those communities.